Thank you. Welcome to the Town of Pownell Select Board Meeting, December 12th, 2024. Call to order, board member roll call, pledge of allegiance, approval of the agenda, public comment, approval of minutes, warrants, accounts payable, correspondence, updates from the town officials, Williams College presentation on public outreach findings for the town forest management plan, umbrella program discussion with Jim Henderson of BCRC, transfer station discussion, compactor and possible action. We have to add a 12B to add Julie Restoration Fund. 13, part-time cleaning position, interview schedule and plan. We have to add 13B for cell tower Crow Hill. 14 is ARPA discussion, updates and possible actions. 15 is FY26 general and road budget discussion and overview. We have to add 15B, Hannah to salary position. 16 would be public comment and 17 would be adjourned. Board member roll call, Angie Rawling,
Carl Strohmeyer.
Jamie Percy.
Brian Harris.
let's all rise please for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So approval of the agenda. Oh, hi, thank you.
Apologize for being late.
Announce yourself, since you.
Mike Gardner, President.
So these are the changes that we added and I announced it, so now we just have to approve it with the changes.
So you've been over the agenda?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Fine.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda with the changes.
So moved.
Second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, any public comment? Do I have a mouse over here? This one?
No, that's not, but I don't think it'll work.
Go ahead,
I can give you a mouse.
No hands are up? I can find my stuff here. Approval of minutes, November 21st.
So moved.
Second,
Any questions on the minutes, concerns, adjustments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstain. Warrants, accounts payable, November 27th, $44,968.52.
so moved.
Second it.
Any questions, comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Accounts payable, December 6th, $237,876.98.
So moved.
Second,
Any questions, comments? All those in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Aye. Accounts payable, December 13th, $28,391.75.
So moved.
Second it.
Have a motion, have a second. Questions, comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. PV1 upgrade. Accounts payable, 12/12, $6,945.
So moved.
Second it.
Questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Payroll, November 27th, $11,464.38.
So moved. Second,
Have a motion, have a second. Any questions? All those in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Payroll, December 6th, $13,367.13.
So moved.
Second it.
Have a motion, have a second. Questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstain. Payroll, December 13th, 2024, $20,230.79.
So moved.
Second it.
We have a motion to have a second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Correspondence. Megan Randall resignation from the planning commission and David Powell's letter of interest for joining the planning commission. Let's do Megan's letter first, please.
So Megan said, finding myself a bit overextended, yet enjoying the cooperation and camaraderie of the Conservation Commission so much, I have decided to resign my position on the Planning Commission effective immediately. And she sent that email December 4th, so that would be her effective resignation date.
December 4th, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And then David Fowler's letter is a little longer. To whom it may concern, I would like to offer myself as a candidate for appointment to the Pownell Planning Commission. I see the commission currently is comprised of seven citizens, but can have up to 9. I would be interested in being appointed now or to be considered when the next round of appointments are scheduled. I first came to this region as a student in 1972, and except for the better part of 1 year, I have lived here ever since, in Pownell, then Williamstown, and for the past 16 years back in Pownell. My wife and I raised boys here. In recent years, we both moved back to the area. Both of the boys moved back to the area. I retired in March of this year after over 40 years in various roles supporting community food cooperatives as the original manager of Wild Oats in Williamstown, and then the staff member of the Umbrella Organization for Cooperatives, where I was involved in developing programming, training, facilitation, and support for store managers and their staff, as well as board of directors. Part of my work involved planning and budgeting support, communications, and building networks of mutual support among managers. During this period, I also served on a number of boards, directors, where I learned the virtues of good process and good record keeping. In Pownell, I've witnessed the latter part of the racetrack era, the contractions of population, businesses since its closing, and as well as positive progress in recent years on a number of important fronts. I have read the 2019 Pownell Town Plan, and I am impressed by the significant data collected. I recognize the work involved in collecting such data, as well as to then identify key long-range planning priorities which will improve the town for the benefit of its citizens. Affordability is certainly a key goal, in balancing short-term belt tightening against long-term investments to build a more sustainable community is clearly if not the challenging and important focus. I am particularly drawn to the work in the Planning Commission because it seems to me that the group's focus is longer term, which in my mind, where truly effective decision-making can have long-lasting impact. I would like to dedicate myself to this work. Thank you for your consideration, David Fowle.
Please, I'd like to vote to accept Megan's letter of resignation, please.
So moved.
Second. With regret, Megan brought a lot to the table. Not that the next person won't, but Megan did bring a lot to the table on the planning commission. And I would like to personally thank her for her time spent. I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
What's the board's pleasure on appointing Mr. Fowler?
What's our policy when it comes to board openings?
Well, I gotta be honest, Carl, our policy, I don't really know what it is, but
We should turn around and put this,
this last go around, in my opinion, the last go around for the select board, we gave a certain number of days, we had no applicants. My feeling is that we accept Mr. Fowle's letter, his intent right now, and move forward and not beat around the bush.
I disagree because I think that, as of this point, this is the first notice that anybody has. And it isn't, and we're not losing anything if we decide at the next selectmen's meeting.
You're entitled to your opinion.
Okay.
What's the board's pleasure?
I say we accept his letter, but still open it up, give a week like you did for the select board position. But if somebody else submits a letter, then we do the interview process. If not, then the only applicant wins. Kind of like what happened with me.
I think, but how many on the planning commission? Right, that's what was my question. How many open seats do we have on the planning commission? Does anybody know? And I apologize.
None.
I don't think we have any.
Anybody except for Megan.
I thought there was a 9 seat.
And it's not a 9 seat. You guys changed that.
Right,
It's 7.
It's 7.
we changed it to 7. Because they were
Is it because-
having problems
Because
getting,
you were having a problem with quorum.
yes.
That's right.
That's what I thought, but I wasn't positive.
Oh,
I'll second Mike's, or
Brian.
Brian, sorry. Brian's motion.
So you're gonna open it until when?
Is it give it a week from today for submitting a letter of interest? If you get no letters of interest, then when's our next board meeting? Is there a
Not till
special
after
scheduled
the
for
year.
next week?
Oh, next week, yeah, but so you'd have to set the deadline before next week's meeting.
right.
All right, so set deadline for next Tuesday for submitting a letter. And
And then what do you do? How are you gonna do the interview process if there's more than one applicant, more than one person comes forward?
Cross that bridge when we get there.
Oh, well, yeah, but,
All right, then
Because it's only fair.
I'll bring it back on the 19th with,
I'm just gonna be surprised, Kyle. It doesn't seem like.
I agree with you, but.
Town politics and
But-
whatever, for whatever reason.
Okay, but I agree, but
Just
it's
make-
still, that's the fair way of doing it.
I don't disagree with that, but it's also, and this is just my opinion, it's also, I don't know if the planning commission has any meetings scheduled between now and then. Probably
No.
not, probably not, right? But with a 6-member board, it would be hard to get things done, where if you had a 7th member right now, they could vote 4-3, 3-3,
Okay,
not gonna get anything done.
But
It's just my opinion, it's
but
just.
they don't have anything on the table right now anyways.
So it's kind of a moot point, but that's, yeah. All right, I have a motion on the floor, I have a second. To open interest in the planning commission till Tuesday, what is it, 17th? With the date,
yes.
yes,
17th.
and
if I would say an amendment to my motion would be if we get more than one applicant, then we try to schedule interviews for the next day. Like what the select board did for the open select board position with, appointing somebody then if need be.
I'm amenable to that, yes.
I won't be here probably on that night, but on the Wednesday, but I definitely be here Tuesday. I have a motion and I have a second amended to try to conduct interviews on Wednesday, the 18th. Is that right, Brian?
Yep,
Do I have a second to the amendment?
I thought you did.
I second the
Okay,
amendment.
I didn't hear that, Carl, sorry. I have a motion and I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
I,
Opposed? Updates from town officials.
That's me, I wasn't prepared. So the first is just an announcement from all of us, I think. It was brought to the town's attention that some feel our meetings are not being live streamed on Facebook in real time. We no longer have the option to share directly to the town of Pownell official group due to Facebook settings. So select board meetings are shared to Hannah's public work profile and then shared to the official town page directly, right after. If you would like to watch in real time on Facebook, you'll have to visit Hannah C. Darling, which is linked to the Town of Pownell Facebook page. Our meetings are also always available in real time via Zoom or in person. I'll add to that, all regular meetings are covered by CAT TV. We do our best to do it in as many ways as possible. And then the second update is just from Joel. With the addition of a new plow truck driver for the winter, we have not set a pay rate yet. My suggestion is to keep with the $20 per hour rate that you are paying for cleaning the town office complex. He is a CDO, also, which is good if we need someone in a bigger truck down the road. He's responsible for plowing and shoveling at the town office as well. And he's considering using him this summer for part-time employment also. Thank you for your consideration. And then just as another update, they are working on keeping up with the winter weather and the repairs in the trucks because they've had a couple of issues arise. Those are all I have for updates.
What's your pleasure on the pay rate?
I make a motion that we keep it at $20 as we have for here, for the cleaning person.
Motion?
I'll second.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain? So, Tara, just on the internet update, on the Facebook Live, that's something that we don't have control over. Facebook has, I just want that to be clear. There seems to be some, misguided information or some, general opinions that is something that we have done here. It's something that Facebook has stopped us from doing. It's nothing that we have done. It has 100% been on a admin page, not on a personal page, as has been kind of accused of in the last couple of days. Could we have done something a little bit different with it? Possibly, but we're not perfect. In a perfect world, I don't think any of us live there, so I just wanted to get that out there. It was kind of aggravating to.
And it's, the Facebook is completely additional
Right,
to the legal requirement.
exactly.
So it's something that we do to try to help.
Mhm.
So a little understanding goes a long way
Right.
when things don't work out the way we hope.
Some of the accusations that were flying around that it's on a personal page and this and that, it's just kind of ludicrous. They were doing that. I'm, it gets a little old having to defend yourself
Mhm.
every week, every meeting for every thing,
Absolutely.
everything that comes up on our agenda. Okay, Williams County's presentation on our public outreach findings for the town forest management plan.
Great.
You're welcome to come up.
We're gonna have a presentation up on the board, so if y'all wanna come around the sides so you can see, that'd be great. Just gonna do that.
Let's see. All the best.
We're good spot for us to go PowerPoint. While we're getting that presentation up there, hi, Selectman, hi, everyone. My name is Brody.
My name's Jaroslava. And I'm Megan.
The three of us are students at Williams College. We're in a class called Environmental Planning with Professor Sarah Gardner, in which groups such as us are assigned to different environmental planning projects in the Berkshires and Vermont, just kind of all around. And we've had the pleasure of working on doing public outreach for Panels Forest, guided by Tara Parks and Don Campbell of the Vermont Land Trust. So with that, get into our presentation. So first we'll talk a little bit about the town forest. I know you all have a lot of context and prior knowledge of the town forest, but we'll make sure we're all on the same page. Then we'll get onto the goals of our project, the methodologies we employed to accomplish those goals, some of our findings from our survey, and finally some defined uses and recommendations, followed by a Q&A.
So the Paneltown Forest was first acquired in 2002. About 735 acres was purchased by the town. And since then, in 2011, when Hurricane Irene had hit, it disrupted the only legal access point to the forest, which was initially a discontiguous piece of property. But in 2023, the town purchased around 300 acres of additional forest. And then adding a new access point off of Dean Road for a total of 1,000 acres and a contiguous piece of property. The next slide, we can see that a little bit more clearly. In the light pink is the 2002 parcel, and then the dark red is the 2023 parcel. And with the purchase of these two parcels came conservation easements, the select board approved of these conservation easements, knowing with the purchase of these two parcels, knowing that the grants that were used to purchase these lands came with conservation easements. So next slide, please. A conservation easement is essentially a legal document that lists permitted and restricted uses for the forest in order to conserve the land, provide recreational opportunities and also educational opportunities. So some of the permitted uses for the forest include non-commercial, non-motorized recreation, maintaining trails, improving water sources, among other permitted uses. And then some restricted uses include no residential, industrial, or mining development, as well as limited ATV use. And as we all know, ATVs are all-terrain vehicles, and under the conservation easement, they are restricted with the exception of the Fish and Game Club, which is allowed to drive their ATVs up to the cabin and then hunt on foot from there. But we were informed by Tara and our client, Don Campbell, at the beginning of our project that this has been a point of conflict within the town within the last couple of years. So we just wanted to make that clear with the conservation easement requirements. And so next slide, please. Management plans were then created to follow these conservation easements, and most recently, Terra Parks had written the interim management plan in 2023 to outline the activities and concerns of the forest. However, this plan is only temporary, and under the VORA grant, which was acquired by the town at the beginning of the year, which in collaboration with the Vermont Land Trust, it supports recreation, education, and conservation of the forest. This grant requires that a new management plan be written by the end of 2025 with the incorporation of public outreach to gauge public opinion on the future of the forest. And so that is where we had come in to begin this project. Next slide, please.
Okay, so as Megan said, this is where we come in. The process for putting together a management plan for a town forest is long and requires a lot of experts be brought in to do all sorts of different planning. Really, all we're doing is just the initial phase of outreach, that beginning of phase 1 there. Next slide, please. Yeah. So in order to engage Pownell residents to put together a public outreach strategy that represents all Pownell residents, we tried to do 3 things. The first thing was to employ a multifaceted effort that taps into existing community networks. To do that, we just spent a lot of time in Pownell talking to people. The second point of that was to meet people where they are at. We understand that, by asking for input, we are asking people to go out of their way. People are busy, they have jobs, they have children. So we did our best to make giving input as easy as possible. And thirdly, we used technology to accomplish that, as well as to try to reach, as many people as possible and to analyze our data. Next slide. And then practically to accomplish this, we did 3 things. The first was to gather and compile this community data. The second was to formulate a plan to try to get an idea, from this community input, what the most preferred defined uses of the forest will be. And the third is to, reflect on our outreach efforts that we made and present a plan for future outreach.
Now let's get into some details how we actually did our outreach. Next slide, please. So our methodology was designed to maximize our outreach within a very limited time frame of our semester, but actually even shorter, to meet people where they are. So we concluded to have 4 types of projects. First, digital survey. Then we had multiple table sessions, and vision workshop. Even though they all have similar ideas and stuff we covered, they all have separate purposes. For example, digital survey was mostly about gathering statistical data, which we could analyze and just present, which you will see later in the presentation. Table sessions and focus groups were more of us getting to know the town and people here and creating this personal bonds and facilitating conversations, discussions. Vision workshop was more at its core educational event, just to share with the community everything we started the presentation with, so the history of forest and our work as a student group in this outreach. Next slide, thank you. A little bit about our survey development. So we had an explicit task to frame our conversations based on what Megan shared in law and policy section. So it is practically clear that the forest is town's property, but still, considering the nature of easements, we have to realize that forest is not just what people want it to be. So we had to look through the resources to talk to our clients, Tara, Dawn, Jennifer, and our mentor, Sarah, to formulate a set of questions to address all these issues. So we worked with Moncton Town Outreach Project, Vermont Urban Community Forestry Program, and also BCRC Outreach Project realized throughout this year in downtown Pownell. Then we concluded posting a survey on the town website, Facebook page, and community forum, front porch forum for approximately a month and a half. Next slide, please. Here you can see a set of questions we developed, just a small part. We divided the survey into 4 different sections. Management focus, which we rated from less important to more important, and activities, programs, and event sections, from not needed to must have, and also research options as don't care and don't know.
We also conducted a series of what we call tabling sessions, where we stood outside of several stores in Pownell and also attended other events that were already being hosted. And so we handed out a series of flyers to promote our own events and also informational brochures. So go to the next slide. This is the brochure that we handed out, and it essentially covers the history of the forest, management plans, conservation easements, everything that we already talked about, for people to just have a quick snapshot of what's been going on with the forest, and then ask people to fill out the survey that we created through a link or using this QR code to get their input on the future of the forest. Next slide.
Here's a couple examples of us out in panel tabling. We did a couple days at Stewart's, trying to meet as many, again, talk to as many people as possible, handing out these brochures. And then we also went to Winchester's. Not only were Mr. Winchester and Tara and everyone else super helpful in letting us put up our brochures, but they also gave us ideas about where else we could go. They were invaluable to our outreach. Next slide. And then we coordinated with a couple of other events going on in Pownell. The first was Trunk or Treat at Pownell Elementary. The parent teacher group there was kind enough to allow us to set up a van and hand out candy, as well as brochures to the parents. And then I also went out on election day right here, and I handed out brochures. You know, I kept my distance. I was on the other side of the pavement, as per the election officials' requests. Handing out non-political brochures regarding the forest. That was the way.
Some of our other locations we went to, where people were just kind enough to get our brochures and distribute them in the time later, were Hilltop Farm, where we met with Crystal and had our own small cultural pond experience. We tasted some maple syrup, which was new to me personally, very much because I'm not from New England. Then we also went to Dwyer's, Village Market, transfer station, and in all these locations we talked to people and got some valuable input about which demographics we pretty much reach if we leave brochures here. So that was all valuable input. Next slide, please. And here you can see the focus groups we concluded to be important to talk to throughout this outreach. But unfortunately, because of pretty limited time frame, we realized it would be not successful if we tried to realize all of them. So we ended up focusing our efforts on facilitating discussions with hunters, educators, and people interested in recreation in the forest. So birders, ecologists, and hikers. And in the next slide, you're ready to talk the first one.
Yeah, so the first focus group we had was with hunters right here. We got 8 hunters were fishing from Fishing Game Club. They're active members. Fishing Game Club, as Megan alluded to, is they're the owners of the only like standing structure in the forest right now that is baked into the conservation easement and will continue to be there, and will be included in the management plan. We had a lot of really fruitful discussion of a variety of issues. One of these was potential safety measures that could be taken, during hunting season in November and December. We discussed restricting children, hunting, requiring hunting orange, and a need for signage. There was definitely agreement on that third point. There was the other two, there was conflicting opinions regarding restricting people and requiring hunting orange. There were a couple folks who were really adamant that no safety zones where, you just can't hunt. That could be too restrictive for hunting. As for visions for the future, there was total consensus that the management of the forest should prioritize the next generation. So these guys were mostly in their 50s and 60s. They were really excited about, one of them was a high school student though, and they're really excited for him and his generation and their ability to be able to access this hunting land that, prior to it becoming town land had, it was hunted on, but on a kind of who you knew basis because it was private land. There was also consensus for a need to restrict ATV access. They understand the importance of the forest and its ecology because they're up there all the time. Also an opportunity for the Fish and Game Club to kind of come into this new era where it's a hunting hub for people in Pownell. That was the hunter focus group.
Yeah, and next we met with educators, and it is just important to mention that sometimes there is the reality of outreach, just work with the community. We had just 2 people who showed up on the day, but still we had a pretty insightful discussion, and we also received much supportive information from other sources of our outreach. So we concluded learning that, first of all, accessibility and family-friendly features is a big part of what is it to be done for the forest as desired by people. It is important to have various parking options provided in case there are schools who want to come to the forest or big families, so they have enough space and easy accessibility to park the cars. Then interest points along the way for people to stop by and rest and just explore, learn something new on this day with a hike or exploration eco tour. Safety and seasonal considerations, just to continue what Brod shared from the Hunters Focus Group. People are still considering either completely closing the trails, especially when it is considered for the education purposes to bring children in the forest, or at least placing a huge amount of warning signs from the entrances and just around the town, so everyone is definitely aware. High visibility vests was an idea suggested to have them placed somewhere in the library, for example, so easy access for everyone nearby the entrance. About educational and historic context, we had a great discussion about the just history of the forest as being part of this indigenous land. So it would be a great resource to have some signage in the forest, some marks or some brochures provided to let visitors, children, students, tourists learn about the indigenous people who lived here before and the first settlers in Vermont who lived pretty much in the northern part of the forest. And then our last focus group, we held it. The next slide, you will be able to see some pictures. We held it just the week before Thanksgiving. We met with people interested in recreation. We had 4 people who attended, and the general consensus was to keep the forest as it is right now, as pristine, as quiet, with no roads, or the very least you you can do this. And no dirt bikes. And then there is no really centralized place with all maps and like distances and time you would expect yourself, your family to cover the distance to actually plan ahead your hike. So there's a need to conclude this project. People are also interested in maple production because this is a town forest and it could be possible to organize something for people who are interested in tapping trees to have some section to just execute these wishes and contribute somehow to the economic desires of the community. Another small thing is the idea maybe to have a regenerative commons on the downhill part of the forest. So to grow some food and just practice some forest farming, which could be interesting to some members of the community.
We also hosted a visioning workshop, which was suggested to us by the Vermont Town Forest Recreation Planning Toolkit. And essentially the goal of the workshop was to gain community input on their needs and vision for the forest. And it was a great way to reach out to the community, have one-on-one conversations. And although some of the results from this workshop might not be fully representative of the entire town of Pownell, it was still a great educational opportunity. And so in order to encourage participation during the workshop, we had a series of posters that were set up around the room that included informational posters, dot exercises, post-it comment cards, and one-on-one conversation. And if you go to the next slide, please. This is an example of one of the posters. A lot of the questions on it represented or reflected what we had in our survey. And so here's an example of one of the questions. It asks, what type of activities do you envision in your community? And if we just look at the top suggestion, hiking and running, people were able to put their dot a scale from not needed to nice to include to must have. And as we can see for hiking and running, a lot of people had said that they liked it for it to be nice to included or must have. And so if we go into the next slide, this is what the setup was. We arranged the tables around in a U shape to have people easily flow throughout the room. Pastor Jason very nicely let us use Faith Church on the day to host this event. And I think this picture demonstrates very nicely how the event went. A couple of community members circled around on one of the maps that we had on one of our informational posters, and we're pointing to different areas of the forest where they hunt or recreate in other ways, and talked about management improvements that could be done within the forest. So overall, it was a great educational opportunity and a way to have these one-on-one conversations with different community members. Next slide.
Okay, so now getting into our survey findings, which, overall reached the most number of people.
So the total number of responses that we had were 74, now 75, which we think is a great number of responses for an online survey, considering it was only open for a short couple of months. And yes, it's only a small fraction of the entire population, which is over 3,000 people in Pownell, but we think it's the best data that we have collected, and it has been shown us what directions the town could go in. And so when asked about existing experience with the town, it was pretty clear that a lot of people who had responded said that they had limited to no experience with the town forest. Some people said that it was not easily accessible or that it was unfamiliar. Others hunt or hike in the forest. One person responded with the question of how do I get there as their experience. So when it comes to desired experience, several people had said they wanted easier accessibility, family-friendly recreation, opportunities for hunting and hiking to coexist together, and conservation efforts as well. Next slide. So when looking into the management focus of the 4 management suggestions that we had, recreation, education demonstration projects, natural resources and habitat, and timber and forest products, The top two preferences went to recreation. You can see with these purple lines saying more important, and then also natural resources and habitat. There was general support for education and demonstration projects as being a focus, and then less support for timber and forest products. But when moving on to activities specifically, next slide, please. We gave a long list of activities that would be possible in the forest under the conservation easements. And it was pretty clear that the top three that people had preferred included hiking and running, birding and wildlife, and picnic with sunsets and views as well. And so there was also general support that we had found for other activities like ADA accessible paths, dog walking, snowshoeing, among others. And then activities with less support included those like 3D archery and disc golf. And also, interestingly, hunting was also under less support. But this is when it's important to note that different outreach opportunities is crucial when understanding this information. And it's a complex issue, and we know that the results that came from this survey might not be fully representative, and we'll get into a little bit further an evaluation of these results to explain approval and agreement as a difference. Next slide. And so then when it comes to programs and events, the programs that were suggested, like ecology tours, kids camps, health and wellness programs, were all generally accepted. Most people said that they'd be nice to have, no strong preference for anything, but no one would really object if something happened. Same with events. There was no strong preference for must-have events like community events, festivals, or athletic races, but there did seem to be a divide between these events being nice to include and not needed at all. And programs and events would require volunteers and planning with the town. So it would mostly come from the town that would carry these out if people had preferred. Next slide. And so at the end of our survey, we just left an open comment area for people to provide any other extra comments they had. And some that we thought were worth noting were some people had said they wanted more hiking trails or bicycle trails, as well as a recreational campground that could potentially make money for the town or the Fish and Game Club. And there was also an emphasis on wildlife preservation and conservation. Next slide.
Yeah, just to generally talk about the demographics we reached with our survey. Surprisingly for us, over almost 70% of responses came from people over 50. So they pretty much didn't have children of school age. So this obviously impacted their results, probably also a lot to consider. And 2/3 of people either super rarely or never, or even don't know where the forest is located. So this is a huge gap in just informational space about the forest. And we tried to address it through our vision workshop and other activities we did, just to talk more about why the forest is less accessible for the present couple of years. And yeah, hopefully in the further outreach, this will be less of an issue. Next slide, please.
All right, now getting into defined uses and recommendations for evaluate this data a little bit more. So what we did is we took these sliding scale questions that we had regarding management, programs, activities, and events, and we assigned a corresponding numerical value on a 5-point scale to each of these like text inputs, right? So less important would be a 1, more important would be a 5. Questions scaling from not needed to must have, not needed would be a 1, must have would be a 5. So what we did here, I'm just going to come over here. Here's an example for recreation. This is everyone's input, or this is, I guess, just a sample, but we took encoded, we took the text, gave it the corresponding numerical value for every answer in the recreation question, and then we took the average of that. And when we do this for each defined use, what we get is on the next slide. these tables. So here again on a 1 to 5 point scale, we have the averages of each question, and then we scale that to 100 to get a better idea of differences between the averages. So we get these approval scores that are on a scale from 0 to 100. The higher it is, the higher the general approval for a future use of the forest is. So when we put that into graphs on the next slide, this is what we get. So for management, it's clear that natural resources and habitat, managing for that, as well as managing for recreation, as opposed to say managing for timber and forest products, is a lot more popular. But I'm gonna bring in one more piece of nuance here, which is the idea of agreement versus disagreement. And our proxy for that is standard deviation. So here on the x-axis, we have that same approval score. So again, if it's on this side, it's got higher general approval. If it's on this side, it's got lower general approval. But then on the y-axis, the higher up it is, the more general disagreement there is. So for timber and forest products, there were more people on both ends saying this is totally necessary. There were people saying this is totally necessary, and there's people saying we should never do it. There's don't bother. Versus down here, because this is further down, there was more consensus, more agreement that this is the way that this should go. So just wanted to point that out, that even though there's less general approval for managing for timber and forest products, there is more disagreement there. All right, next slide. Okay, this is this is our activities, our approval scores for every activity that we asked about. Again, hiking and running, birding and wildlife watching, picnic sunsets views seem to be a lot more popular than putting in a traditional playground, having archery and zip lines and canopy tours. And then there's everything in the middle. So next slide. And again, here's we're looking at approval score on the x-axis, and then disagreement again increasing as you go further up the graph. And as Megan was getting at earlier, here's where we have this really interesting outlier, which is hunting. So in terms of overall approval, there's less overall approval than say something like hiking and running, which is all the way on the right. But this is far and away the activity that had the most disagreement. So again, you have a lot of people saying this is a must-have, and you got a lot of people who are saying this isn't worth it at all. And again, hunting is baked into the conservation easement, so it's kind of a moot point, but we just wanted to point that out. Next slide. I'll be honest, these programs and events, the evaluation isn't quite as interesting, but there does seem to be for programs more enthusiasm for educational programs and ecology tours as opposed to health and wellness programs like yoga classes, fitness classes. And as for events, there seems to be a lot more approval for community events than say athletic race events and adventure races. Although again, the margin here is less than say in our activities and our management focuses evaluation. So next slide. So as for future outreach.
As for future outreach, so this is the last part of our outreach we've been working on. Since this was a short time frame, and we realized that town will be working more with people and gathering more input to conclude the management plan for 2025. So we suggest to first of all to potentially attach raffle to survey just to reach for example low income population, which we realized we did not really succeeded with our survey, even though we tried to talk to as many people as we could in all these different places, on table sessions and focus groups. This could be another way to just interact with more people. Using more mediums such as Found Out Past and Present, Facebook page, which we learned a little bit too late in our outreach work, which was actually something Tara from Winchester shared with us. It was really helpful. So there might be more spaces online like this to utilize in the future work. Just organizing more general town halls and forums for more people to step by. So it is not one vision workshop, for example, but more events. So more people can find time to participate if they want to. Personal interviews is something we really wish we did more if you had more time, because same as focus groups, we would be able to have more personal connections and just talk to people and hear what is that like in the forest and how they envision this, and this would help just to be there for people and make time when people cannot participate coming actually to these events. And also targeted outreach. We specifically think that reaching out to younger residents, high school aged students, more educators and low income residents. So these 4 groups are pretty much limited in our survey data. So we usually talked to older people and working class, but this is the future. This is the future of the town, people who will be using the forest. So focusing more on maybe participating in parent-teacher gathering events and attending classes, workshops, maybe some clubs where students go after school, more school events, maybe some festivals held during the spring semester, which we heard about, people are excited about, would be also a great source to talk to people.
And finally, just wrapping it up. So just to finally get to our our recommendations, just ideas for the select board to consider. It seems that from our outreach, what people are really enthusiastic about is managing for natural resources and recreation. As for activities, again, hiking and running, birding, wildlife spotting, picnicking, and hunting seem to be the activities with the greatest enthusiasm. As for educational programs and tours, I mean, those are the programs that have the most enthusiasm, as do community events. And just something for us all to keep in mind, this is definitely something we lost sight of, kind of, getting bogged down in all these different ideas, is that there is 1,000 acres out there, and there is opportunity to do a lot of different things to represent the interests of different people in Powell. And then, as Yaroslav was getting out, we only had so much time, and outreach should continue to get a more representative idea of what people want. And just to highlight a couple of the complexities of the responses we received. Again, different activities are important to different people. Hunting, despite it not being high on the approval, it didn't have a high approval score compared to some other activities. It is baked into the easement. And finally, the uses of land, of course, will need planning and volunteers, both from town government and also just residents to put on any programs and events. And with that, thank you all for listening. And that's our presentation. We had a couple more. Thank you, everyone. Shout out real quick. Of course, Tara Parks, Don Campbell, who couldn't be here with us in person. The folks in panel who helped us, along the way, including Nate Fowl, Jen Boucher, Mike Gardner, and everyone else on Concom and the select board, as well as, Pastor Jason at Faith Church, the Winchesters and the Winchesters crew, the folks down at Solomon Wright Public Library, Tom Sherry and Chris Gardner, Hilltop Farm, and everyone else who participated. So, it was a privilege to be a part of this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. First, I want to say that I am thoroughly impressed with everything that you have presented here today. It's not, you have certainly enlightened me, and I've lived there for 60 years, on things that I probably wasn't in tune totally with. Maybe I was, but not visually like this. I'm incredibly impressed. There's a lot of time there's a lot of effort. I wish we had more responses, and I'm sure you do too. But for the information that you received, what you presented here tonight is incredible. To me, it's absolutely incredible. It is something that I think we as a town can move forward with and take it take the information that was provided, from your group, from your outreach group, and use it really in a positive way. And I think that's a huge win for the town. I think it's a huge win for the town. I don't have any questions that you guys have rocked this presentation as far as I'm concerned. Does any board member have any questions for him?
They covered everything.
I'm not sure. I mean, I think you guys probably learned a whole bunch too, right? That you could, it was right. And that's kind of the goal too. But, you missed some groups, but that's not your fault. It wasn't from lack of trying. It was from that lack of that group, maybe not reaching out. But to a certain degree.
I really appreciate all of your work.
Yeah, it's incredible.
I couldn't have done it without you. Really, really.
It was a pleasure to be involved in this with you guys for sure.
And 75 is a good response rate.
Panel
survey.
Yeah, for a panel survey, it was great.
Pretty good.
But it's sad.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the.
But for the information that was provided, I'm not sure it could have been, more thorough. I really don't think that it could have been more thorough than what you guys presented. I don't have a single question, which is kind of rare.
You will get like a written report with all this detail and the presentation, the slides too.
I was gonna ask if we can get a copy of the presentation.
Presentation.
Anna, do you have one online? You want to send it to all of us?
Yeah, again, it's looking like it's gonna be about 100-page report that will also come out of this.
Right, I'm sure. It's, it was. I for one am certainly glad that we entered into this adventure with your program for sure. I think the town should be thankful for the whole thing.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you so much.
For agreeing to this way back in the summer, and Sarah was great to work with for others.
We'll be in touch.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was our pleasure, for sure.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, umbrella program with Jim Henderson of the BCRC.
Good evening, everybody.
Jim?
Thanks for having me. My name is Jim Henderson. I'm an environmental planner with the Bennington County Regional Commission. I manage our brownfields program. I'm going to give you a brief background on our brownfields program. And here's a handout that describes how our program works. My colleague Scott Grimlyon is with me tonight. You probably know him from some ongoing projects centered around the same area that I'm going to talk about, the village. So our brownfields program is specific towards trying to revitalize properties that are either underutilized or abandoned because of perceived environmental contaminants. And we have had this program in effect since about 2006, when Jim Sullivan, the past director of BCRC, started the program. I took over the program a couple of years after, when he became the director of our office. We have done numerous projects in the town of Pownell. The first one that we did was at the Barlow gravel pit, and we looked at the old municipal landfill that was there when the Barlows still own that gravel pit. Shortly after the whole PFOA issue surfaced in Pownell, that was related toward the Warren Wire Company. And this was after Sean Donovan purchased the property from the Barlows. I was asked if we would then fund a PFOA study of the groundwater there, which we did. That was my first project in Pownell. The next one was working at the Tannery Dam. And we were doing that with Pownell or Hoosick Hydro. And that was a partnership of Bill Scully and Dennis Candelera, who was at one time a select board member here. I brought them two together because they're obsessed with hydropower. And they got into an agreement with the town of Pownell to reactivate the hydro facility. But in order to do that, we needed to remove PCB contaminated sediments. So that was my second project. The third one never really went too far down the road, and a large part of it was because of PFOA. And that was at the MAC facility that they were using for cold storage at the time, the big building on 346. We're about ready to start doing our phase 2, which is where you really start testing soils, waters, building contaminants, building materials. And then PFOA came up, and Mac Molding called me up and said, whoa, we need to stop. And we have not done anything further. That is the background, except for one project, which was the very first project we did in Pownell, which was 0 Center Street, which is right up there across from the firehouse. And I came to discuss that property. Jim Sullivan did an assessment of that property way back. And the reason why we looked at it was because we're aware that there was a former gas station there. And so just because of the past land use, that's a recognized environmental concern. Then, as you well know, and this is going to be somewhat redundant because I talked with a project manager today, Kim Caldwell, who you've all met. I did not realize that she'd come down and gave you a really good PowerPoint presentation, which I read today too. And I was like, all right, this is going to be a short version. So you know about the PFOA testing that is happening there currently. And they are in the midst, talking with Kim today, of developing what we call a corrective action plan. And basically saying, this is what you need to do to make this a usable property again. So I'm not going to go too down that road. I don't know how much Kim talked to you about the BRELA program, which is a brownfield environmental liability limitation for a potential or a purchaser of a brownfield property. And if I were to go further along with an entity with my current money, which comes from the Agency of Commerce and Community Development, that potential purchaser is required to enter this program. And it makes a complete logic sense because it would protect that potential purchaser from past contaminants and any future contaminants, like a PFOA that right now is not known or regulated, but who knows what's coming up next. So it is imperative that whomever purchases brownfield program enters into this umbrella program. I brought you the fact sheet on that. That will tell you exactly how it happens and how it occurs. In a general sense, if I understand that the fire department wishes to potentially move and build a bigger facility across the road. And that is why I'm here tonight, to discuss the possibilities of that happening and what I would strongly suggest you do, or the fire department does, before anything else happens. Number one, enter the BRELA program. Number two, what we call a phase 1 environmental site assessment needs to occur. And that is for future funding, future grants. And gives you some liability protection as well. My current grant right now, I could pay for the umbrella application, it's a $500 fee, and also the application process. And then there has to be a public notice put out for a 30-day comment. That's totally fundable.
I got a question.
Sure.
Does the town have to take possession of the property to be
No.
eligible? So that can be we can enter into the umbrella program and somebody else can own it.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And let's say, for instance, you guys already know what the issues are there. But in a typical project where, okay, there's an old mill site, but nobody's ever tested the soils, the groundwater, somebody wants to buy it, they will enter into the umbrella program. When we do all the testing and it comes back with X, Y, Z, and they go, holy cow, no thanks, not interested anymore. They can walk away. So what Kim told me today was, if this were to go forward, the umbrella application and a phase 1. I have a consultant that would be ready and willing to do this, and my current funds could pay for that to happen. The good thing about what's happening right there is typically we go phase 1, which is a site visit and a review of the land record as far back as we can see, so that we can identify what we call recognized environmental conditions. The phase 2 would then do all the analysis to address those recognized environmental conditions. And generally that means taking soil samples, soil cores, groundwater monitoring wells. If there's a standing building, then we would take samples of the building materials, looking for things like PCBs, lead paint, asbestos. All of that gets put into the hopper, and then we come up with what we call a corrective action plan. Now, that is the typical procedure, but they already have all the phase 2 stuff done. So really, all my grant would really necessitate would be the umbrella application and phase 2. Kim's thought to me today was they are already working on a corrective action plan with the environmental consultant that's being paid through the Warren Wire. I think it's an insurance company, but I'm not really sure, but it doesn't matter. There is already a consultant on board, and they are currently drafting a corrective action plan. Her point was, okay, if they were going to use this for a firehouse, this is good timing for us, because quite often the redevelopment plan can impact the amount of corrective action planning and remediation work that needs to happen. So in other words, if there's an area of contaminated soils and you're going to build a parking lot there and make an impermeable barrier, well, then we incorporate that as part of the corrective action plan. So she said it's good timing that, and she may even say to the consultant, let's slow down a little bit so that we could maybe incorporate a redevelopment of a firehouse to the corrective action plan. Or they just plow ahead, they do their corrective action plan, that goes to the landowner. He can give that to anybody who is interested in the property. And now they know what they're getting into and what it would cost.
And they got.
And they have, well, if they enter into the umbrella program.
Right, if we enter into the umbrella program, that gives the owner of the property right now protection. Or does it give us, only us protection? It gives the person that owns the land.
It gives the person, well, actually, it could go to the landowner as well if they were not the cause of creating the liability, which obviously he was not.
No.
It happened many years ago. So he would be a really good candidate to enter into the umbrella program as well.
Okay.
Because he was not the cause of the issue. I won't go too much further along because I think that, that you've heard all of this already from Kim. But there is one other thing, that I came up with tonight or today that is something that needs to be considered. And, it's in regards to the wetland that's there. And I've known this property for a long time, but when I pulled it up this afternoon, just to like see what this wetland looks like and how big is it, I was surprised that it was so big. I thought it was a much smaller area. And this could significantly impact what the schematic, the draft plan.
The development potential.
Yeah, the conceptual idea. Because as you would probably agree, having access to 7 and to North Pownell Road would be important for emergency vehicles. But as you can see on that map with the light green, that is where the wetland is, and we would need to impact that wetland with entrance and egress. So I tried to reach out to a wetlands biologist who works for the state of Vermont to get her opinion on this and to maybe arrange her to come down here and look at it and get it better delineated. Because I'll tell you the truth, this data goes back to the 70s. It was based on the National Wetland Inventory that the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service did 40, 50 years ago.
Hallelujah.
So it is quite possible that it has changed based on, and also it was very rough mapping. It wasn't site specific. It was mostly done from aerial photography, like black and whites. So a site visit could shrink the wetland, or it could even make it bigger, especially with the amount of drainage that.
But we'll know.
But we would know, exactly. So I try to reach out to her to see if we could get an assessment done for everybody's benefit. And I asked her to call me back. I can report back to you or the landowner.
Jim,
Before,
the question?
sure.
Does it matter? So we weren't considering buying the property. The owner of the property wanted to just give it to the town because he's kind of sick of paying taxes and.
Doesn't matter.
But would you suggest having him enroll in the program or we enroll in a program?
Whoever is going to own the property, acquire the property is the premier person or individual entity that should be in this program.
Okay.
If the current landowner intends to hold on to it until he can find somebody, I would try to convince him to enter into it himself.
Okay.
Now, before any of my money is considered to be used, I need 2 things from the current landowner. One of them is a signed owner participation agreement, which basically is saying, I agree to participate in BCRC's brownfield, and it lays out what his responsibilities would be and what our responsibilities would be. I will leave this with you. This happened just yesterday in Shasberry, similar conversation with a building they're thinking of acquiring. I left it on their table. The landowner came in and signed it today. So potentially, if it's a phone call or a knock on their door, I don't. That needs to be done. The second is an access agreement. So this would give both BCRC and whomever consultant that we hire to do the phase 1. So I'm going to leave this as well. Is there any questions?
No. I'm glad you were having that wetlands delineated. That was a concern of mine.
Yeah.
So first thing I want to be upfront and honest about, Jim, is the firehouse potential situation is definitely not a discussion that has happened in an official capacity. Okay?
Yeah.
There's been speculation. There's been on the street discussion out amongst residents and other people, but this board has never had a discussion about that happening.
I understand that.
Right, but I have to get that out there because if I don't, we're gonna be accused of having some kind of illegal discussion on
Totally.
firehouse. So I wanna get that out there because, just because of the nature of the beast. So now, do I think it's a bad idea? No. But that's my opinion, but that's just, there's never been a general discussion on that.
Understood.
Either in executive or anywhere else for that matter. The owner of the property there was an email a while ago.
And that's why Kim come down, but you all were nervous to do I think to go any further with the Brella program, because they didn't have quite all of the information that you've provided.
Right.
And then she was gonna bring back the corrective action plan, but based on what he's saying, that might be better to do it.
I personally think at this point in time, because it's going to, I think it's time to, we've talked about this for a while, a couple of years or longer now. That we've talked about that piece of property. It's time to move forward one way or the other, in my opinion. So, I guess it's a board decision. Maybe reach out to the landowner and say, okay, here, we'll take this property, and then we sign the paper as the town, as the owner.
As the interested party.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You want to sign as the interested party of ownership. Yeah.
Okay.
Before you want to understand your full liability before you transfer the property. You want to make sure that the Brella program happens first.
Okay, thank you, Scott. That's great.
Okay, so that he should enter into the Brella program.
No.
No,
He entered the Brella program as interested party.
Right.
Okay,
So
all right.
So question for you, Jim. Is that with the paperwork that you just left on our desk? Is that possible for us to sign that paperwork as the interested party? It's not.
That's the ownership paperwork to give us
Okay,
access.
What do we need?
what I left for signatures tonight would be for the owner right now.
What do we need as the town for paperwork as the interested party, to steal Scott's terms? What do we need to do to move this forward?
Enter into the Brella program. And if that is the way that we decide to go forward, then I will engage with the consultant to develop the application, to pay the $500 application fee, and to also do the phase one. It does not obligate the town or anybody. The only reuse of the property that I'm currently aware of is potential firehouse. That doesn't have to be the only, nothing, it could just be nothing.
Well, right, we could, theoretically, we can make it a skate park. You could, right? I mean, and I'm just blowing ideas out of my hat, right? But, so could we, as a board tonight, say to you, vote on this and say that, yes, we would like to enter into the Brella program with the BCRC 40 Center Street?
Yes, you could.
Do that.
You could, but it would mean we do the Brella and the phase one.
Right.
What
is the cost of the town for that?
Zero.
That's what I thought, but I wanted to get it out there. I didn't think I misunderstood one single thing. I just wanted it out there. So the town, we have nothing to lose by entering into the Brella program with you tonight. Zero. We have nothing to lose.
Nothing
It's a no-brainer. It's, to me, it's.
I brought a lot of extra copies of this, so if, you want to leave some, at the town office or give it to the planning commission or whatever, if Angie wants to take it home and start her fire tonight,
Get a fire pit going tonight, we'll be over. I'll entertain a motion
I'll make a motion that we enter into the umbrella program
for Zero Center.
for Zero Center Street
With BCRC.
with BCRC.
well, it actually would not be entering it in with us. It would be entering it in with the Department of Environmental Conservation. But through my grant, I would,
What he said.
Umbrella program.
I'll entertain a motion to enter into the umbrella program with the Department of Environmental Conservation through the BCRC.
Did I misunderstand though? Does it cost us $500?
No,
He's gonna cover it with his
Zippo,
grant.
zero.
You're gonna cover the grant.
there is an application fee of $500. My grant will pay for that. And it's not a complicated, process. However, I always have my consultants develop the program, for the application for the umbrella and to also, part of their contract with me covers their time to prepare the application and the $500 fee. And they've done it many times. I've done it a couple of times myself, but we only get a small piece of this pie for administration, and every hour I spend, chews that away. So I would much rather say, give me a scope of work and a cost estimate for your proposal. And I've already got that in line with a consultant that I've talked to in the last couple of days. It's more efficient and it saves my time for other things that I need to do with my time.
Okay, Mike, you want to walk me through this?
I just want to ask one more question, please.
Okay.
What if we could get the wetlands back and it's extremely bigger and we have less use of the land and we decide not to move forward? Are we obligated to do anything?
No,
Okay.
Let's see how if I can do this. I'll make a motion that we enter into the umbrella program with the Department of
Environmental Conservation.
Environmental Conservation for Zero Center Street, Pownell Center, Vermont.
Do I have a second?
Before a second, does that motion satisfy the requirement?
Yes. Does it, that's
I
the
believe
question.
so. I believe so.
Okay, then I'll second.
I have a motion on the floor. Do I have any more questions? Any more discussion? All those in favor of entering into the umbrella program at no cost to the town through the BCRC? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
could I request that I continue to work directly with Tara? Because we're already connected and efficient. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Jim.
Jim.
Thank you.
Very much.
Ryan, will you just grab that speaker and bring it
Yeah.
back there, please? Sorry. I'll make sure we can hear. Thank you, Brian.
No problem.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Scott, for the correction, right? Okay. Transfer station discussion, compactors and possible action.
Is Tom on the meeting?
Yeah, it was,
Okay.
Let's look.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, good. Let's see if we can do this. Because that's not working. I guess you can hear me. All right. What I have here is several used compactor quotes, and I have one new one that I do want to run by you. Although you had said you really didn't want new ones, but this one has a 10 horsepower motor that is it's a single phase. It's a waste quip, and then for two of them, so $60,830, and these would be fully warranted for 3 years for structural, 1 year for parts, and 1 year for labor. So I just wanted to put that out there for you to think of, because it was a little better price than some of the other ones. And then we saved the 3-phase converter. Right. So I sent a lot of this stuff over there. I hope you all got it, but I got one for Sergeant Equipment for a unit in but he's out of Chicago. He's got a unit there that's $13,050. All right. And it doesn't have the shipping on there yet. But thing of it is, he's not no warranty whatsoever. It was working when they used it, and now it's not. I'm not too crazy about that one because there's no warranty. They didn't redo it. They just said it worked when they took it out. So that doesn't really impress me too much. I've got one from Rudco, which is out of New Jersey, and that is for 1 unit, and it's a larger unit. And where's the total on this one again? Come on. Come on, where is that? On here someplace. Do you guys have the Rudco folder?
What did he say? Ripco?
What's the,
RUDCO. Rudco.
I forwarded
Okay.
so many of them. They all look the same to me.
This one for $29,230 for 1 unit. We may as well buy a new one for that.
well, yeah, that's kind of a
That's-
no-brainer.
Yeah, and then here's another one for from B Equipment out of Quakerstown, Pennsylvania, for 1 unit, and it's a pretty heavy duty one, but it's reconditioned. But they give you the standard 90-day warranty and so forth. It's $20,210, and that's delivered and installed. That one does have installation in it too.
Tom, didn't we have one with 2 units?
Yeah.
I'm coming to that. It's
So let's get to that one.
okay. That's the last one. That's the
That's
last
good.
one. That's the last one. So that's what I'm
Perfect.
waiting for here. This is from Atlantic Sales and Service in East Brunswick, New Jersey. This is for 2. These are compact models. They're 2 PTR compact machines, but they got plenty of oomph. And what they're doing is they're taking off the 3-phase and putting a single-phase pack and controls on there, the guide rails stuff, and transportation, but they're not installing it. And I think, but the whole thing is only, well, they charging us tax. I don't know if we can. I think we can get away without that. But it's
Yeah.
$30,300 for 2 of them.
How much?
$30,300 without the tax. With the tax on there, it's $32,241.13.
Yeah, but we wouldn't pay the tax.
No, because I bought the storage units I have up there, those shipping containers. They came out of Jersey, and we didn't pay tax on them.
Right, that's fine.
So I'm pretty sure we don't have to pay tax on it.
Well, we're tax exempt.
Yeah. So we'll see. Of course, New York doesn't see it that way, according to Joel. But I think that the ones from Atlantic are really, they got the 90-day warranty, but that's what all the used ones, except the one, don't even have any warranty at all. So that's just like picking a poke there. You don't know what you're getting. I really don't want that one at all. So if you're going to have problems, you're going to have problems right off the bat with something like that, I believe. So this is the one that I'm kind of trying to go for, really. So it's up to you, but this is the one where we can get 2 of them for 30,000, 31,000, no, 30,300 if we don't pay tax. And that's delivered. Now it's not installed. What I'll do is I'll probably get a hold of guy over in New Hampshire, see if he can install them, or the guy in over in Latham. There's somebody over there too.
Do you have any idea how much that costs?
Hey, Tom,
That won't be that much. We'll probably use Stan for electrician because I know he's done big motors and stuff working for Mac Molding when he did. I know he did a lot of motor work and stuff. So
Well, I can't imagine the installation. I mean, when we talked to Joel about this last time, we're talking about doing our own concrete work, doing our own pad. So that takes that part of it out, other than purchase the concrete. And then you're putting the bolts in place to bolt it down to the concrete pad.
well, the bolts we'll probably just use the expansion bolts.
Yeah, well, okay, so we're gonna bolt it down. So
Yeah.
installation can't be a crazy amount of money.
Oh no,
It just can't be. I'm not talking thousands and thousands of dollars.
no, it won't be much.
was that the one from Marathon? Was that the Marathon one?
Atlantic equipment.
No, this is a
Oh.
PTR.
Okay,
It's a
that was a different one.
Yeah, it's a PTR. There are two cubic yard hoppers, but it's compact, so the RAM probably has more seals in it because it's smaller. It's it doesn't have as big a unit, but we'll see how it works. I mean, I think these things, what I've read on them, the PTRs are pretty good. The waste equipment are probably the best ones in the industry, but
That'd be what they cost.
they're all expensive.
How much is this gonna save us or get us closer to being even? I mean, we're already pushing.
We're not going to get even, Angie.
No, I know we're not gonna get even, but we need to be better than $100,000.
Well, not $100,000 either.
So Carl's done the math on this, right, Carl? On savings?
For transportation, you're gonna save about $15,000
For a year.
per year.
Yeah,
Per year.
per year.
At
No.
least.
And if the costs go up, we just have to raise the rates. If they're going to go up astronomically, we'll probably raise the rates this year anyhow. But we'll discuss that. That'll be more in the budget. But
Tom,
yeah,
which one of those ones that you sent me on 12/9 when you sent us the packet? Which one am I looking at for the Atlantic? Because I've got the town of Pownell, I got BE equipment, I got two brochures there.
This says Atlantic Sales and Salvage right at the very top.
Okay, I got two. It says Accurate Waste.
Yeah, but this one has Atlantic. You should have it. I'm pretty sure I dropped the stuff off that night when it was in there, so it should be there someplace because we had that one.
So I just was trying to look it up since you sent us a bunch of stuff. I was trying to look it up there.
Yeah, well, it just it's by far the cheapest, and basically what we're going to do is we just need a 60 amp breaker, and we'll use an AB switch in there so you can only run one unit at a time. You can't run them both same time, but we got plenty of power up in the office to run it off of there. So we're in good shape. We're in very good shape with that. And the other thing is we can get we'll get some 110 out through there too. We'll have to do some narrow trenching across the asphalt, and we'll patch it in later. We'll patch it in, of course, but
What size dumpster will that accommodate?
44 cubic yards.
How many? 44 cubic yard?
Yeah, it's those big ones. They're enclosed.
Okay, that's all I'm asking. I'm just trying to get my hands around exactly what we're looking at for a dumpster going onto that.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, they're just. I mean, it's just a smaller unit, but it's still pushing 55,000 psi. So I say that's pretty significant, and that's what the other ones are pushing. Except the great big ones, they're pushing 80,000.
What's the model? I guess is the better word for it. What make is it?
It's a PTR All right, let's see here. It's a PTR. Hang on, I gotta get a light over here. I'm gonna run out of battery. That's what I was afraid of here. PTR 2-yard model TP 2000 HD stationary machine rebuilt and refurbished. So that's what we have.
And that's how much? And that'll be 18,000?
No, the 30,300 for two of them, for both of them.
Okay,
They're
15,000, okay.
Yeah, but I'm getting really close. Battery's running low. My charger thing, it ran out. So I had another meeting last night, with the BCRC. So my battery's just about done here, folks. So your battery.
So from what I'm hearing from you, Tom, and it's what I'm thinking as well, is to purchase the two.
He's gone.
Oh, see you, Tom. Unfortunately, what I heard from Tom was to purchase the two used units for $30,300.
Did those have any warranty on those? I'm not that.
90 days.
90 days.
90 days?
Yep.
The only question I would have would be, is that 90 days from when we get it set up, or is it from 90 days of purchase?
Well, it's gonna be 90 days from when you get it set up. It can't be 90 days.
That's all, I mean.
I'm sure. So these are pretty simple units, right? You got a steel box, you got an electric motor, you got a hydraulic pump, you got a hydraulic cylinder.
Correct.
Some guide rails and some
And it
hoses.
pushes it into a box.
And some hoses. There's not a whole lot that can go wrong with it. It's a pretty
Correct,
simple
correct.
unit.
And I think
And you're getting a brand new motor on there, which is probably the thing that's gonna go the most.
And I think if I remember, I looked it up and the parts availability is pretty good on that. So that I'm not overly worried about the warranty.
I'll entertain a motion to purchase the two used units for $30,300 from, I don't remember, the Atlantic Equipment maybe.
So move.
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Opposed?
Motion carries. 12B, Julie's Restoration Fund. Everybody get that email from Tara today?
Yep.
What's your pleasure?
Did we agree last night to do the 18
I thought we said 2,000.
or 2,000? That's fine.
2,000.
I'll entertain a motion to move $2,000 from the Restoration Fund into the,
No, you don't need to move it. You
We just need to approve.
Allowing her to.
oh, okay.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
What was it, the 2,000 total?
Yes, $2,000. I have a motion on the floor and a second. Let's read the motion so that we're clear, please. I have a motion on the floor to use $2,000 from the Restoration Fund for election wages.
Correct.
Okay. And I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Part-time cleaning position interview schedule and plan.
Did you just say election wages?
You can't put it through election.
Burnt out or what?
Yeah.
All you need to do is vote
Approve
for
it.
Bridget to work and do the maps, digitize the maps.
That's right. I'm sorry.
And charge it to the restoration fund.
Right, because you can't move the restoration money.
You're not moving money anywhere.
Authorizing.
Sorry.
I make a motion, we rescind the previous past motion.
Second.
All those in favor? All right, now,
Clearly, it's been a long meeting.
It's been a long
Yes.
week.
So make a motion to allow Bridget to do the map scanning, and we fund that time through the restoration grant
Restoration Fund.
fund.
Not
We did it last night. How many? It was like 15 hours for 6 weeks or something like that.
Capped it at 2,000.
We capped it at 2,000.
2,000, yeah.
Okay. Jamie made a motion?
It's capped at $2,000, Jamie?
Yes.
Okay.
Second.
Second. We'll reassess that.
Now we have it.
I just, yeah,
Sorry.
that's fine. Don't.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Sorry, Tara.
It's okay. I'm right there with you.
Part-time cleaning position interview schedule and plan.
We had 11 applicants for this cleaning position. I've never had that many applicants for anything we've ever posted. I was able to narrow it down to 3 or 4 that have past cleaning experience and I think would be a good match, but I don't do anything without permission these days, so do you want to do the interviews or do you want me to?
I would prefer Tara do it. She's the one that's in here seeing what's going on every day.
Yep.
And then I'll just bring my recommendation to the board
Mhm.
at next meeting.
Look at me going
Might be
now.
after the New Year's.
Look at me.
It will most likely be after the New Year,
Look at me going now,
next week.
huh? All right, cell tower on Crow Hill. So, there's been an application put in, by a property owner on Crow Hill Road to the Public Utilities Commission, State of Vermont Public Utilities Commission for a cell tower. We, as the town, can request the Public Utilities Commission to have a hearing on that to give residents and landowners a chance to weigh in. My recommendation is that we reach out to the Public Utilities Commission and ask for that hearing. That's my recommendation.
Can I just ask a question? Why can't the homeowners request that themselves if it affects them?
Well, they reached out.
Because they have to go through the municipality.
They have to go to the municipality.
Okay.
Right, I'll entertain a motion for that,
So
to have
moved.
Hannah reach out to the PUC and request that hearing. We have 60 days, but we're well within that timeframe. We're only, I think like 10 days, Hannah, give or take, since the application went in. We're well within our timeframe.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor?
Okay.
ARPA discussion updates and possible allocations. Let me find that in here.
So that's just a continued conversation from the last time. You asked me to look into insurance, where it would be stored, who's responsible for maintenance. And that just kind of created more questions, I guess. So kind of looking for the board's opinion on what they think about.
Let me find that, Tara. Sorry. It's not in my, it didn't download on the computer, but that's okay. I can.
What do you want, the suggested uses or the breakdown?
Yeah, those suggested.
ARPA spreadsheet, right?
It's tiny.
Sorry, no, it's all right. I can read that. I couldn't get it to download. It didn't download on this laptop, so that's all right. So let me stop right now with it. I'll bring out the phone. Okay. So we have $50,000 for a side-by-side parking lot paving is 15,000. Staircases are 20,000. We could put these into the capital fund instead to cover these costs. Compactor for the transfer station is 20,000. The highway department equipment fund is 20,000. Cemetery fund is 4823 with an additional 2,500 when it comes back from the Vorex should go there also for a total of 129,823.48 left. I'd like to move forward with some of this tonight. The compactor for the transfer station at 20,000 will bring that total cost for those two compactors down to about $10,000.
And he has.
And he has that money in his equipment fund as it is. So that's kind of a wash. All right, so let's do these one at a time. I'll entertain a motion to allocate $20,000 of ARPA money to the compactor for the transfer station.
So moved.
Can we ask a question on that?
About-
That discussion or
On the,
contact?
normally I don't, Jason, but yeah, no, I just don't want to. Yeah. Yeah, sorry. I don't want to get into highway equipment fund for 20,000.
So moved.
Second.
Did we say all in favor on the first one?
Oh, we didn't vote the first one.
Oh, yeah, we didn't vote.
I know I don't feel
I'm sorry.
good, come on.
Sorry, Dave. All in favor, all in favor, 20,000 for the
Two
compactor?
nights in a row.
I'm not sick, I have allergies.
There's no allergies out there now, unless you're allergic to the weather.
Allergic to the weather.
Aye.
All in favor on the compactor?
Aye.
Aye. Highway equipment fund. 20,000.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The staircases, the staircases are for, coming down from the church,
Right.
down the
Yeah.
bank that we had talked about initially.
So we'll have extra parking up on top.
Correct.
Well, they park up there as it is. It'll be safe. It'll be a safe
Down here.
transition coming down the bank
Mm-hmm.
for $20,000.
Right. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Parking lot paving is 15,000.
Is that for out here?
Mm-hmm.
Does that include the ramp?
The ramp's getting done this week coming.
Okay, cause I walked that ramp the other day and it's really
It's
bad.
gone now.
Oh.
The ramp's gone and
Good.
the concrete will be done next week.
Okay, good.
And
Thank you.
our flagpole will go in at the end of the week, so by Christmas, the town hall should be almost done,
Okay,
minus the pavement.
So moved.
we're on the staircase, right? No,
We're on
We're on the
paving.
pavement.
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Cemetery fund, 482348.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Which brings us to the side by side for 50,000. So we had, the fire departments are here, or someone's here to talk about that, I'm sure. We had talked about this before, a side by side for the town for rescue and fire service. There were some questions that came up about insurance and who would be responsible, how that would work. What else do we have for questions? Training. Who's liable, maintenance. And I don't know if we've ever answered those questions. And in the meantime, I think there's been some other suggestions, right? About that. Is that okay?
So the initial proposal was for.
So will you just, Craig, just announce and come up where they can hear you or somebody, or I guess we can move that over. Just announce who you are, please.
Craig Odell, Pownell Fire Chief. So the initial proposal was to purchase one side by side with the equipment. But after doing some research, where the department probably could actually do two, one for each department with the firefighting and rescue equipment on both. Obviously, the make and model would be different to accommodate the cost. So it'll be a lower model machine that would go to each department. As far as the insurance, maintenance. The only way we can see that it's feasible is that the town would have to make the purchase and gift them to the department. We would insure under our policy. And it would take care of the maintenance fees moving forward for
Okay.
Anything to add?
Jason?
We've had some discussion, also, we're agreeing with it. Our opinion was a little bit different. We thought that maybe we could take that money and split it. We could, with the intention of purchasing a side by side, but maybe do ours a little bit differently. But it'd be the same money coming from the town, and we have, someone that would donate the money to offset the difference in cost.
Can I ask a question? Why do you think you need two?
Well,
so
why does each?
Much of the time, if you're going in the woods for a rescue, you're gonna need more than two people. Or if you're going in the woods for a forest fire, you're gonna need more than two people. Most of the side by sides only accommodate two people. So regardless both departments were responding no matter what. So
Right.
you would have better access with more people. We would all go to the same calls. We'll have this equipment, whether we're going up for an injured hiker or we're going up to a forest fire, we would both be accommodating that situation.
Can I give you a little history on the way we've ran it in the past? We all, for years, have used our own vehicles for this. You know, back when we were using, a couple $1,000 four-wheelers, it was one thing, but we're all running, our machines now are anywhere from $18,000 to $25,000. And we're not covered under any insurance for the fire department or anything else. So if we go to one of these calls and something happens to our vehicle, that's on us. The insurance doesn't cover any of that. So, I mean, that was where we started to look into, maybe it's time that the fire department owns a couple to help out.
I got a question, and it's kind of like maybe minutia. But you talked about having the town have the insurance.
No.
That was the question.
No,
So we looked into it through our insurance, so it would fall under an umbrella.
It would fall under, so would you do the insurance and maintenance for those vehicles?
That's what he said.
So the town wouldn't have any liability on that once we allocated the money?
No, that's why Craig said that we purchase it, we gift it to them, and then they're responsible for everything going forward.
Or, Jason's suggestion was we split
the money then.
Right, so he did look into it a little bit, same with the insurance also, and it's tricky, but I mean, we can still cover it under the policies we already have, as long as we have, we do some training, a formal training program and things like that. But I think it's cleaner, instead of the town trying to purchase it and and then gift it or whatever. I mean, I think you could trust us if you wanted to give us.
Just allocate you the money.
We could purchase it. I mean, we've done that in the past on the last grant we got, last allotment. So,
How would you equip it?
it's a self-contained skid unit that goes to the back of it. It's a combination. It'll carry a patient on one side.
Correct.
The other side has a space for brush fire equipment, a small water tank, and a pump.
You'll have that in your budget?
and it's actually made in Vermont.
Yeah, those units.
The local company right here in Vermont that builds it.
Okay.
Originally, we priced it out through the original one that we came to the select board with. It was done through a company that all the bells and whistles, it's through a fire department company. So the cost is elevated immensely.
Mhm.
We figured if we were to buy machines, build it ourselves, we can get a lot bigger bang for the buck.
Okay.
The town gets a lot more out of it.
Yep.
We would also have to purchase our own trailer also.
I was just gonna ask that question because you can't drive it just anywhere. Obviously, you know that.
So,
Mike, can I ask a
Sure,
question?
yeah, sure.
Just so people know, if rescue needs the use of the side by side, they call you guys anyways, right?
Yeah.
Just so people know.
They call the fire department for,
90% of the time.
for assistance anyways. Yeah.
Rescue would be getting the fire department for assistance.
I just want to make sure people know
We're
that.
typically dispatched together, yes.
So the only question that I have is, I don't know if it's really a question. So we're asking for $50,000 for two side by sides that are probably, history says that we're using them for forest fires more than we're gonna use them for a rescue operation.
Not likely.
But so where I'm going with it, Jason, is we're gonna give $50,000, 25 each. And the rescue squad gets none of that 50,000 technically. Right? So where is the equity? All right, so we have 50 grand to give out, let's say, right? So if we said, we're gonna split it three ways, and Becky said that she had things that she could spend money on too, okay, as everybody does, right? We all do. Right? Well, shake your head no, Craig, but we all have money that we can, we all have places that we can spend money. So we're talking about, we're talking about transporting firefighters into a forest fire, right? And we're transporting 2 people at a time. So now we have 2 machines, now we're transporting 4. We're not transporting 10, we're gonna transport 4, because we have 2 2-seaters.
Right.
Right? So we doubled. But you gotta look at it from our standpoint. I'm not trying to limit it. I'm trying to be fair across the board with everybody. Right? It's a tough spot to sit here, to be honest. We go from one side by side at 50 grand to 2 for 50, which is a better deal, but for sure, all right, for sure. But what is the rescue squad really getting out of that they can already have?
The transportation to get.
Get their patients off the alleys.
I mean, don't forget, we just.
A week ago, in the middle of the night, we had to take a paramedic with all our equipment to a remote location and like.
Jason,
There was, you know.
I get it, but the equity part of it is where I have the problem. That's, it's.
And don't forget, we just sat here and watched the presentation that the town now has 1,000 acres that people are gonna trade all over and hike all over.
Yep, Jamie, that's in the back of my mind as well. I know exactly what you're saying. I know exactly what you're saying.
I know what you're saying too, but it's hard to evaluate the fairness when you're talking about.
I think instead of looking at it as fairness, why don't you look at it as capability and filling the need? Like, who's gonna be better served giving that money to fill this specific need, the fire departments or the rescue squad?
Great point, Brian. And I've thought about that. I just say here, when I sit here as a board member and as the board chair, I want to make sure that I get all of my thoughts out there, right, wrong, or indifferent, so that we can have a really good discussion on, as a board, on this particular, that's why I saved it for last, right? I saved this for last because the other ones are kind of straightforward and there wasn't a whole bunch of discussion.
Because my thought process is Craig and, Alansky, sorry, long day. Anyway, they're here with specific ideas on what they want to use the money for getting side by sides. Becky just says she's got other things she'd like to do with it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure each department would like to have money and just spend it on something else as well.
Yep.
I mean, Valley needs a new center station. I'm sure they would just as soon take the 25 and put it toward their building fund. But they're not. They're asking for it specifically for a side by side.
We aspected.
Like a generator, she's been.
So Becky does have a specific request, a generator.
Yes, but when the side by side was first brought, it was brought by me and Craig because of the addition of the 1,000-acre forest. It was really the whole point of me asking for that ARPA appropriation. But it kind of got a little flipped up.
Oh, we've got multiple sites in our town for the woodlands now.
Right.
Oh, it's not uncommon that we've had multiple situations either. And so I know that it's gonna be utilized in support for rescue as well as
Correct.
the fire department. So, I mean, I don't have a problem justifying it that way.
Decrease some of these other things and get her 10,000.
Well, this is the last of the ARPA funds, correct?
What is she 10,000 for the generator?
Well, so what my proposal was going to be 20,000 to each fire department and 10,000 to the rescue squad and go from there. And they buy whatever they want. They don't have to.
Do whatever they want with the money.
They don't have to say what they're buying with. They don't have to say they're buying side by side. We can award them $20,000 right now each.
We've done it before.
We've done it before.
How close would you guys be to getting your side by sides with only 20,000? If we just gave you the money and you do your own purchase?
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, yeah, a basic side by side and the prices we got for 2 was just under 20,000, but that's not equipping it. That's not equipping any skid unit or anything.
This skid unit was
$5 grand.
$5 grand.
So we would have been right around that,
Right around here, 25.
25 each.
There's a couple more bake sales in them.
Well,
Cash calendar.
you know, we got raffles.
There are state or federal programs.
We love fundraising.
I know, Jamie, I just had to break the ice a little bit there, because I don't want the tension. We don't need the tension between any of us, right? We just don't, I know.
You know, if there's any state or federal programs you guys could apply for to cover the rest to help equip a side by side?
Well,
I've looked at several different, and I've applied for many grants.
We just said, on one side.
Are we gonna be over in the compactor?
well, do we know when Tom has in his equipment fund off the top of your head?
I can tell you.
Hang on.
Yes. You can drop that one a little bit. You can take away from the front staircase if you wanted to. Or the cemetery. We have a cemetery fund already too. We completely do all of them. Maybe earlier. Here.
I just want to see what Tom has in his equipment fund. Bear with us. I'm just trying to be. It's a tough spot. You know, I've told you guys 100 times and her too. I'd love to sit here and say, and give you a blank check and say, here, do what you gotta do. Right? I'd love to be able to do that. I just can't.
Tom has $60,129 in his equipment fund.
Does he have other earmarks for those funds?
Not that I'm aware of.
I'll entertain a motion to reduce the already voted on compactor ARPA funds from $20,000 for the compactor to 10,000.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it with the caveat that specify that the rest of the funds for the compactor are coming from his equipment fund.
That's the plan.
I have a motion. I have a second. All in favor? Aye. I'll entertain a motion to take the $10,000 that we just took and give it to the Pownell Rescue Squad on ARPA funds.
So moved.
Second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Should we say that it's for her?
Nope,
generator?
nope.
No, okay.
I will entertain a motion to give the Pownell Fire Protective Association $25,000 in ARPA funds.
So moved.
Second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. I will entertain a motion to give the Pownell Valley Fire Protective Association $25,000 in ARPA funds.
So.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
ARPA funds are done.
Yay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And please just know,
Thank you all for staying through that.
you know,
No, I know what you're,
yeah, it's just,
it's a tough spot.
yep. This is, you know, it's tough to sit up here. And I appreciate you guys. Nobody appreciates you more than we do for sure. You guys all know that, so.
We'll run those through next week.
Okay. That's done with that. Preliminary general and road budget discussion and overview. Everybody go over that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any discussion on that? Right now?
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you. So, you all have my notes. I don't have the notes in front of me, but one thing to note in the draft budgets that the rescue and fire have been added. So it's a pretty solid budget that's been presented. There's like one change of like $420 I need to make that I'm aware of right now, but I'd love to hear the feedback on thoughts such as like the sheriff's department, the contracted law enforcement line, we left the same. Looking for opinion on stuff like that.
Their rate went up like $8, right?
Yeah. So yeah, their rate is gonna go from $72.50 to $80 per hour, starting July 1 with the new fiscal year.
I don't think we can cut their hours. Cut them once.
Any further though.
I think we have to leave the hours the same, so I think we have to up that. keep the hourly rate or to keep the number of hours the same. It's just my opinion. At least keep it the same.
Were we putting it on the
You got
ballot,
25 hours, right, a week?
asking if they wanted to stay with the sheriff's department?
But it's not, it wouldn't take effect until after January anyway. No, we're not, we're asking for an advisory, not whether they want to keep it or not.
Exactly.
Correct.
Advisory.
But it doesn't mean we have to remove it. No matter what the advice is. We didn't hire a town manager,
No, I know.
right? But I don't believe we can go without law enforcement, and the town constable is not the way to go for law enforcement in this town. There's no way. There's no way. We have to stay with law
There'd be
enforcement.
so much more money having to be spent to get town constable up to that point.
Be ridiculous. We're kind of locked in.
Mike,
Yes, sir.
if we do increase the sheriff's department, what I would like to do is just increase the sheriff's department to $104,000. But with the caveat that that is their budget and not their patrol time. Because remember, their patrol time is separate from their investigation time. So just so that we don't end up with 150,000 because.
We had that conversation last year with them. I don't think you were in part of that though, right? Because it was before.
Can't remember if he
It was before you were on the board, right?
Yeah, but we've had discussions with them while I was on the board.
We can't.
We could turn around and say, we'll do 20 hours and that'll give us enough buffer room.
How many hours are they now?
But how are they doing on their budget right now?
They're staying under.
They're staying under their
They're Staying
budget.
under as we requested, yeah.
There's what I'm looking for, contracted law enforcement. Right now, we have it set up it's budgeted for 99,000. Right? 99,300. And that's 25 hours a week, is that right? What we're doing, Tara?
Correct.
So if we did 25 hours or 25 hours a week,
So if we just increase it to 104, that's what brings that up to that.
right? 25 hours a week times, what was their rate? $82?
80.
80.
Oh, you dumbass. 25 hours a week
200.
times $80
Times 52.
is what is it, Carl?
Times 52 is $104,000 for the annual, for the budgeted amount.
I'm comfortable as long as we can keep it at the 25 hours a week. I'm comfortable with that.
Okay. I just needed to make sure that I stated it that way. That's
Yep,
all.
no, that's fine.
$104, what did you say?
104,000 even.
That gives them
That's
25, well, you know
That's
what?
80 times.
Yeah, but you know what, Carl? Their rate is not $80, isn't it $80.50 or something?
No, it went to 80.
Right, flat 80?
250 and it went to 80.
Oh, okay. All right, I just want to make sure that we weren't short down the road somewhere. Probably short anyway, but you
We're gonna
know,
be short anyways.
yeah, okay.
I have a question, perhaps I missed it. Is this going toward the new contract?
Yes,
Proposal? Okay, I just want to make sure because
towards the next,
I got a little confused with the back and forth.
Yep.
New
Okay.
budget.
the fiscal year that starts July 1st.
Okay. If I'm correct me if I'm wrong, the way the sheriff's department normally run it, aren't we on like a weird contract schedule versus what they do for other places?
It starts July 1. I'm not sure if that's.
Well, you're talking about the timing?
Yes, the timing of contract renewal. Just a thought, what if we try to time their contract renewal to where we can actually just put it on a ballot article every year and let the voters decide straight out if they want police coverage or not?
I believe we can't do that because our budget year ends June 30th. And that's when the contract new contract takes hold.
That's not necessary. It only.
Well, I think that's what Andy's asking for which was a couple weeks before you came on board.
Okay.
Was an advisory vote on this year's ballot of whether the town wants to continue with the sheriff's department or not, or law enforcement or whatever.
Yeah. I have
We have to-
LCT opinion on that, but I haven't brought it back. I was gonna bring it next week.
Right.
Because my thought was, well, what if our current contract, we change the timing of it, sign it at the same time, but have it ending as of
I
whatever.
don't think we can do that because we operate on a fiscal year.
Mhm.
The contract really doesn't have to operate with the fiscal year though.
Yes, it
does.
Yes, it does.
When they
It might not, Carl.
started the fiscal year as far as where you pull the money from.
Correct.
Right.
But that's right. But now how do you split that between budget use?
We already do half the time when we don't.
Right.
Well, I guess that's the
We have a lot of contracts that start in January.
Right.
Our
Or salt.
medical insurance, a lot of things.
Right.
This won't be the first thing I've been wrong with today, so.
They never, a lot of times they don't
Ask.
coincide with the fiscal.
Well, my thought process being that you have a lot of people that complain about the level of coverage. And I just thought, well, why don't we give the voters direct say then? And we somehow get it onto the ballot in March, let the voters decide. Whether you want to have police coverage every year, it's going to cost this amount for.
So what you're saying is, and if they vote it down, then we don't have police coverage.
Correct. And then it's the voters' decision. So people can't get mad at the select board one way or the other.
Well, I think that's what Angie wants with that advisory.
Yeah, because a lot of people don't.
Well, Angie, what he's saying is not an advisory, it's an actual budget, put the money up, and this is how much money will be budgeted for the sheriffs. Yay or nay.
Is that how Stanford did it? Does anybody know? Because Stanford does not have law enforcement now besides state police.
I believe they voted it down, but I don't know if they were doing it as a regular budget thing every year.
I don't know if they did it town, or I think the board just did away with it.
I think the board just.
I think.
I
Don't,
was just wondering.
yeah, don't quote me. Anybody else have any questions on the budget? I think the road budget was super solid. I think Joel's budget went up 30 grand. Right, something like that.
I think, yeah.
$38,000. That's kind of unheard of, right? The general fund, it was pretty, it's a pretty solid budget with adding in the super solid budget by adding in the rescue squad and emergency services.
And these are in our packets so that people can look through them. The notes that I took that I sent you all are also online so people can see the justification for things, or, you know, the reason things might say zero, such as the NUMRIC contracted services.
Right.
Those will be included in the reappraisal, so therefore we took them out of the budget. To make it. So
All right. Good, nothing major on the budget.
get back next week with that change.
Hannah to salary. Everybody read
So
that?
I just would like to, I didn't send you anything. I was just kind of spur of the moment to ask that we transition Hannah to salary because everyone in the office already is, except for her, all the full-time employees. And it just, to me, it makes more sense rather than her. She's often trying to squeeze hours in at all hours of the night or on the weekend. And I know she's still gonna get her job done and get the work done, so I think she deserves the trust of having salary.
I think she certainly earned it for sure. I'll entertain a motion to move Hannah to salary position instead of hourly.
So moved effective next pay period,
Immediately.
immediately.
I'll second that.
Any more discussion? All those in favor? Any public comment, Hannah?
Jim has his hand up.
Good evening, people. First of all,
Could you state your name?
Your name,
oh, I'm sorry, Jim Cosas, North Mason Hill Road. Long meeting and everything, but bottom line, Brian, at first I thought I'd welcome you to the meeting, but after you just had the comments about the sheriff, so I'm at the point that you've joined Angie in trying to get rid of our protection, whether it's anyone looking for protection of their one area. I don't think that's really involved. I think it's just protection of what we've seen in the last paper articles about drug involvement in Pownell and just having the sheriffs out there being part of the whole situation with the state police, I think it's a necessary expense. The second thing is that you guys need to approach the people and tell them that your town budget is not that large compared to what the school is charging in their taxes. And somehow we need to just get the attitude out there that we're not paying that much for our services for the town. But we're paying a lot, and I'm paying a lot for the school districts, and I don't have a child in there. So, but I've got a road that needs plowing. I need a town that needs protection, and I need lots of other services. I just think you guys are penny pinching on certain small little things that the town needs. That's not costing taxpayers that much money. It's peanuts. The same thing with Angie talking about trying to get rid of or close up the transfer station because we're losing money on it. We're a town. It takes a town to run a town, and we're all doing the best we can to run this town. And I don't think the amount of money that everyone's paying for the town services is that much. Maybe for the school district, yes. So people need to start complaining to the school district and not to you guys. All right. Second of all, I just want now, since I've talked about the sheriff's department and wanting to keep that on the budget, I want to just know now that we're spending monies for a compactor and taking monies out of the equipment fund for the transfer station, will the request for the ballot article to possibly close up the transfer station, which I think was another ridiculous idea, will be taken off the table. And I thank you very much, and you guys have a good night.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Any more public comment, Hannah?
Oh, yeah, Tom Zolper has his hand up.
Who does?
Tom Zolper.
This is Tom Zolper, 472 Center Street. First of all, thank you all so much for working late now, almost 2.5 hours. Really appreciate your hard work. My comments should never be taken or should not be taken as criticism. But I did want to express a little frustration. It's difficult to follow some of these ARPA discussions. They go back, from what I can tell, a couple of years. And I've sort of researched the best I can to try to be an informed citizen. But you know, it would have been nice to have some public input in this process. I noticed on the Vermont towns and municipal government, whatever that association is, they encourage people to build consensus, have outreach. Obviously, it's your discretion, but it always helps to have input. I personally, I'm not sort of getting my head around why, if I heard a number of $20,000 for some stairs, some concrete steps to go sort of from the church down to the main parking lot, and then another substantial outlay for paving the lower parking area. I mean, I trust you guys that these are necessary, but it's difficult to understand exactly why they're necessary, and the amounts of money are sizable. I mean, a compactor, we heard Tom give a presentation giving 3 or 4 quotes for a $20,000-$30,000 piece of equipment, and yet I didn't hear any comparable presentation quotes for side-by-sides, used or new, or quotes for different contractors doing concrete work. I mean, it's just, again, I'm not criticizing, I'm just trying to, it's difficult and frustrating sometimes to follow some of this and understand it. And that's all my comment.
Thank you, Tom. And we can certainly take that under advisement. Any more public comment, Hannah?
There are no other hands up.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.